So immigrants want Black Americans to fight their battles after calling us lazy, Jareer, and Akata? Absolutely not. You picked your side, now deal with your consequences. Listen, I need to address something that's been brewing online, and I'm going to say it with my whole chest because apparently some people need this spelled out real clear. There's a whole wave of immigrants on social media who are suddenly in their feelings because Black American content creators are talking about delineation and focusing on our specific community issues. And honestly, the audacity is breathtaking. Let me set the table here. For those who don't know, delineation is Black Americans finally saying enough is enough to being lumped in with every other group under some vague minority umbrella, while getting none of the specific policy attention our unique history in this country demands. It's us finally drawing clear lines around our identity, our political agenda, and our community interests. It's us saying we're not a catch-all category for every brown person in America. We're a specific ethnic group with a specific history of chattel slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, mass incarceration, and systemic oppression that created the civil rights framework everybody else benefits from today. Now, you would think that would be uncontroversial, right? Just a group of people defining themselves and advocating for their own interests. But no, certain immigrant communities are absolutely losing their minds over this. They're flooding comment sections, making response videos, writing whole think pieces about how Black Americans are being divisive and abandoning solidarity and turning our backs on the struggle. And I need everyone to understand just how ridiculous, how manipulative, and how historically illiterate that argument actually is. First of all, let's talk about this mythical solidarity they keep referencing. Where exactly was this solidarity when y'all were calling us lazy, when you were saying we make everything about race, when you were using terms like Jareer and Akata like slurs, when you were co-signing every anti-Black stereotype white supremacy ever created and then adding your own cultural flavors of anti-Blackness on top? That solidarity, where was it? Because here's what actually happened. Many immigrant communities came to America, looked at the racial hierarchy white supremacy built, figured out real quick that Black people were at the bottom, and made a calculated decision to align themselves with whiteness against us. They saw how this country treats Black Americans and said, we don't want that smoke, and proceeded to throw us under the bus at every opportunity to prove they weren't like us. They adopted anti-Black attitudes. They perpetuated stereotypes. They excluded us from their businesses and neighborhoods. They talked about us like we were the problem with America instead of recognizing that we're the reason they have any civil rights protections at all. And now that the political climate is shifting and suddenly some of these same communities are facing deportation threats and immigration crackdowns and systematic targeting, now they want to talk about unity? Now they want Black Americans to march for them, advocate for them, put our bodies on the line for them. After decades of disrespect and distance and outright hostility toward our community, the math is not mathing. Let me be absolutely clear about something. We are not the ones deporting you. We didn't vote for these policies in the numbers that actually matter. We didn't create ICE. We didn't build the detention centers. We didn't write the immigration laws. Black Americans, by and large, have been consistently on the side of humane immigration policy because we understand what it means to be dehumanized by systems of oppression. But here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to be your default coalition while you continue to disrespect us, exclude us from your economic networks, and perpetuate anti-Blackness in your communities. You want to know why Black content creators are focusing on Black American issues? Because nobody else is going to do it for us. We learned that lesson the hard way. We marched for everyone. We bled for everyone. We created the entire template for civil rights activism in this country. The playbook that every other marginalized group uses, we wrote it with our blood, with our bodies, with our lives. And what did we get for it? A seat at the back of the coalition while everyone else ran to the front of the line to collect the benefits. So forgive us if we're done with that program. Forgive us if we've decided that our ancestors' sacrifices were for us, for our descendants, for our specific community, and not for people who can't even show us basic respect. Forgive us if we're tired of being the mule for every social justice movement while our specific issues get pushed to the back burner in the name of some broader minority solidarity that only seems to flow one direction. And the nerve, the absolute audacity of some of these folks to try to police what Black content creators say to their own community. Like, who gave you that authority? When did you become the arbiters of what Black Americans are allowed to discuss in our own spaces? We have never, and I mean never, inserted ourselves into your community conversations. When you're having internal discussions about your community issues, we stay out of it. We don't flood your comment sections demanding you center our concerns. We don't make response videos guilting you into fighting fighting our battles. We mind our business and let you handle yours. But somehow, when we do the same thing, when we have frank conversations about what's happening in the Black American community, when we talk about reparations, lineage, political strategy, economic empowerment specific to our community, suddenly it's a problem. Suddenly we're being divisive. Suddenly we need to think about the broader implications. Suddenly we need to remember our allies. Here's a wild thought. Maybe if you want solidarity, you should start by showing some. Maybe if you want Black Americans to stand with you, you should have stood with us when it wasn't a crisis situation for your community. Maybe if you want us to fight for your rights, you should have spent the last few decades not actively participating in our oppression. And let's talk about these men in certain immigrant communities who want to get online and complain instead of actually organizing in their own communities. You want Black Americans to do your heavy lifting because the men in your community won't step up? That's your internal problem. Handle that. Because Black women especially have carried more than our share of the load in every movement for justice in this country. We're done being everyone's mammy, everyone's mule, everyone's default organizer while our specific needs continue to be ignored. If you're facing deportation, if you're facing discrimination, if you're facing systematic targeting, organize your own community, build your own political power, mobilize your own resources. That's what we did. That's what we're still doing. Nobody handed us the Civil Rights Act. Nobody gave us voting rights out of the goodness of their hearts. We fought for it. We died for it. We organized for it. And we did it while facing the most entrenched, most violent, most systematic oppression in American history. So when we say we're focusing on our community now, when we say we're delineating, when we say we're drawing clear lines around our political identity and our policy priorities, that's not abandonment. That's not divisiveness. That's us finally learning the lesson that nobody is coming to save us. And coalitions only work when there's mutual respect and reciprocal support. And right now, we're not seeing that from communities that spent decades treating us like the problem. You chose your side when you called us lazy. You chose your side when you said we make everything about race, as if the race-based oppression we face is somehow our fault. You chose your side when you adopted white supremacist talking points about Black culture and Black families and Black communities. You chose your side when you moved into our neighborhoods and immediately started working to push us out. You chose your side when you opened businesses in our communities but wouldn't hire us. You chose your side every single time you participated in anti-Blackness to try to distance yourself from us on the racial hierarchy. And now that the system you aligned yourself with is coming for you too, now you want us to forget all of that. Now you want unconditional solidarity? That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Black content creators speaking to Black audiences about Black issues is not a problem. It's actually what's supposed to happen. Every community should have people dedicated to addressing their specific concerns, preserving their specific culture, advocating for their specific interests. You do it in your communities. Latinx creators talk to Latinx audiences. Asian creators talk to Asian audiences. Nobody questions that. But when Black creators center Black Americans, suddenly it's controversial. The real issue here is that some of y'all got comfortable with Black people being the foot soldiers for everyone else's liberation while never receiving the same energy in return. You got comfortable with using our movements, our strategies, our moral authority, our political capital to advance your own interests without reciprocation. And now that we're saying no, now that we're setting boundaries, now that we're prioritizing our own community the way you've always prioritized yours, you're uncomfortable with it. Well, get comfortable with your discomfort, because this is the new reality. Black Americans are not a monolith, and we're definitely not a coalition free-for-all. We're a specific ethnic group with specific needs that have been ignored for far too long while we were busy being everything to everyone else. You want to build authentic coalition? Start with respect. Start with accountability. Start with addressing the anti-Blackness in your own communities. Start with supporting Black-specific policies like reparations. Start with hiring Black people in your businesses. Start with not gentrifying our neighborhoods. Start with defending us when white supremacy attacks us, not just when you need us to defend you. Until then, go talk to the people you aligned yourself with. Go talk to the white folks you were trying so hard to impress by differentiating yourself from us. Go talk to the system you thought would protect you if you just proved you weren't like those Black people, because that's who you chose. That's who you stood with. That's who you need to appeal to now. Black Americans don't owe you our labor, our sacrifice, or our silence about our own issues. We don't owe you coalition just because we share brown skin. We don't owe you our political capital just because the same system oppressing us is now oppressing you too. What we owe is to our ancestors who died fighting for our freedom. What we owe is to our descendants who deserve the fruits of that struggle. What we owe is to ourselves to finally prioritize our own liberation. So when you see Black content creators talking about delineation, when you see us having internal community conversations, when you see us setting boundaries and defining our political identity, do what we do when you have your community discussions. Mind your business. Stay out of it. Let us cook. Because at the end of the day, this is simple. You can't disrespect us for decades and then demand our solidarity in your hour of need. You can't call us slurs and then cry about division when we distance ourselves. You can't participate in our oppression and then expect us to fight your battles. The entitlement is wild, but the answer is clear. We're not the ones deporting you. We're not your enemy, but we're also not your savior. Figure it out the same way we had to figure it out, with no help, no allies, and everyone against us. And maybe, just maybe, you'll develop some respect for what we've accomplished and some understanding of why we're finally putting ourselves first.